Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this today's session on Safe Workplaces Dialogues, which is a monthly discussion series focusing on key aspects of workplace safety and compliance. Myself, Ipsita Mishra, I work as a senior in-house counsel at Lawcubator, and I'll be facilitating today's discussion on our Women's Day special edition of Safe Workplaces Dialogues, the theme of which is workplace safety in unconventional workplaces. This Safe Workplaces Dialogues is a platform where industry leaders, HR professionals, legal experts, and DI advocates come together to discuss workplace safety, compliance, and inclusivity. This initiative is powered by Lawcubator. To give you a brief background about Lawcubator, we are a SaaS based platform that streamlines legal compliance and HR regulations for organizations. It offers e learning courses on key workplace topics like POSH, data privacy, whistleblowing, DNI, etc. Along with, we also have with this an integrated complaint resolution system, which ensures that there is confidential, transparency, and efficient redressal of any workplace issues that the employees face. So let us dive into today's topic now. The theme is it is called workplace safety in unconventional workplaces. So we have realized that women working in high risk and unconventional environments, they face unique safety challenges, be it starting from conflict zones to rural villages and extreme outdoor conditions. Workplace risk can vary significantly. Today, we are very honored to have a panel of distinguished experts with us who will share with us their experiences, the challenges they faced, and the strategies for creating a very safe work environment in these industries. Let me introduce you to them. First, we have today with us Pallabi Munsi. Welcome, Pallabi. Pallavi is an Emmy Award winning investigative journalist who is based in CNN's London Bureau, covering Europe, Middle East, and Africa with a focus on human rights violations, accountability, war crimes, and gender inequality. She played a key role in CNN's coverage of the Sudan War. Her contributions to the documentary Going Home, The War in Sudan helped it win an Emmy Award for Outstanding Investigative News long form in 2024. She has also extensively led long form investigations as part of CNN's coverage of the Israel Hamas war, Iran protests, and the civil war in Myanmar. Her work has won multiple awards, including the Society of Professional Journalists Sigma Delta Chi Award in 2022 and a Silver Lovey Award in 2023. Welcome, Pallavi. We are very glad to have you in today's session.
Hi, so glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Next, we have with us Ajita Madan, who is the co-founder and CEO of NthAdventure Evento Private Limited, which is a trailblazer in adventure sports and tourism. She is a management professional turned adventure racer and entrepreneur, and she has left a long decade corporate career to pursue her passion for the outdoors. She is an Alpha certified mountaineer and the first and only female referee from Asia for the Global Adventure Racing World Series USA. Under her leadership, Nth Adventure has become India's only licensed organization to host adventure races organized by ARWS USA. Her contributions to adventure tourism are remarkable, I must say, and she has traveled globally, participated in world championships, and is dedicated to building a sustainable adventure sports ecosystem in India. She has been recognized for her impact, including reviewing the Women Making Impact in Outdoor Sports Award in 2021. Welcome. We are very glad to have you, Ajita, today with us.
Thank you, Ipsita. Good to be here.
Likewise. Next, we have Riddhi Banerjee, and she has more than 8 years of work experience in the field of research, consulting, and implementation. With a background in designing and executing field based programs, she has worked very closely with the communities, the grassroots levels, government agencies, and development organizations to drive an impactful change. Her expertise spans around key areas like health, livelihoods, climate resilience, and WASH initiatives, ensuring evidence based solutions that are both practical and scalable. She's very passionate about bridging policy and practice, and she brings a data driven yet community centric approach to fostering a social sustainable development in rural areas. Very glad to have you with us, Riddhi, today.
Thank you, Ipshita. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Riddhi. So, after giving this brief introduction about our speakers, we'll move ahead to our first round. The first round, the topic of the first round is the journey into unconventional workspaces. So, Pallavi, the first question is for you. I would like to ask you that what motivated you to become a war correspondent, knowing that it has many risks involved? Also, was there any defining moment that solidified your decision to enter this profession specifically?
So essentially, war was never a part of my uh, in thought process, but essentially, I wanted to cover geopolitics. It's unfortunate that war has become such a intrinsic part of the geopolitics that I started working on wars, but also I think one of the defining moments would have been the something closer to home, that is basically the Myanmar Rohingya genocide. And I think I covered that for Indian newspapers for a while. This was in 2017, and that is when I realized that like a lot of the wars from the global south, or what like Bangladeshi author Shahidul Alam calls the majority world, does not get like authentic optimum coverage in global media. And I think that is what motivated me. So yeah,
Okay.
that's about it.
Thank you, Pallavi. And this is what more. It is great to know that this was a defining moment for you to solidify your decision to enter this profession, also. And were there any other incidents which made you realize that there are other risks involved in this?
I mean, there is always a lot of risks associated with it, from traveling to such a location to even working with really affected people. Risks are very much intrinsically a part of the work that I do. So basically, from my own safety to my team's safety to basically the safety of the people that we talk to, because it's always essentially mostly people who are abused in some way or the other who are speaking to us. So I think that kind of you need to be very careful about how you represent them, and so that they are not jeopardized. Also, a lot of different things like locations, like we film a lot, right? And how do we show an area without jeopardizing anyone? So
Yeah.
there's a like in every step of the way there's a lot of risk associated with the work that I do.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Pallavi. I believe that is a really brave decision of yours to enter this profession. So thank you. The next question is for you, Ajita. How did your journey in extreme sports begin, which eventually led you to start an adventure racing company? Also, we'd also like to know, along with the audience, it will be great if you could share with the audience, like, were there any initial challenges or any barriers that you faced that almost made you reconsider that this path specifically of adventure racing?
Okay, thanks, Ipsita. That's a very short answer, but the answer short question, but the answer to this question is very, very long.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll just try to keep it short. So how I started, yes. So it's a long journey to realize that what exactly you want to do in your life. So I will put it in that way. I was a curious kid into track and field, just doing the sports, and then get into a corporate job, and then I realized that okay, that's not something I want to do for rest of my life. I feel that I have some purpose. I feel that if I have potential, I can contribute something more. And I started figuring out that what do exactly I want to do in my life. And then venture sports, I just got introduced to as an outdoor activity, but I realized there is so much to it, and I started exploring more. And as I said, that curiosity and to do more in your life is something like it leads you to some place where you realize that is what you want to do. So this is how my adventure sports journey started, and I started liking it. I started exploring, learning more about it. That was the initial stages. And then once upon a time, like my husband, he just showed me one video on a YouTube. He said, okay, just see this. Is this something excites you? Just looking at that, I just fell in love with the sport. So what we are doing is not just a leisure or a one-time hobby activity. We are trying to build an ecosystem around adventure sports. We want to build in a system where the adventure sport is also considered as an equal profession, not just you just go to one place, do one time and then come back. We're trying to build that ecosystem where the sports is also considered as a profession. It's taught in schools, it is taken as a life skill. So there's so many things is associated. That is what we want to do it. And so that's how NthAdventure formed, and we have been fortunate enough to build this organization from scratch, where people not knowing about the sport and now realizing the potential and they want to come and train for it. And answering to your second question, that if we had a thought about reconsidering it, yes, COVID was that phase. I think it is for most of the organization, because for industry like us, we are not into like a mandatory industry where people need. We are not a need-based industry. We are still considered as a leisure. If anybody is interested, want to do it, then only they come out. And otherwise, we were neglected. Our industry was neglected. So that was one phase. And second phase would, I would say, when people don't realize that we don't have a system to support this sport, this industry, which is now building up. But then it's back then it wasn't, the system was not ready for these sports. So those situations did made us have a second thought on what we are doing. But it's a journey which every entrepreneur or every person have to go through and realize that how difference, what difference can they make, and to really want to walk that path. So that's how it started, and we are happy to be where we are, and we continue to move forward.
Thank you, Ajita. I believe this is very encouraging also for like a lot of women out there. The next question is for you, Riddhi. I'd like to ask you that what inspired you to work in social development, and especially in rural and high-risk areas? Also, was there any particular community or project that made you realize the importance of your work?
Thanks, Ipshita. So I actually studied in a social development college. So that kind of redefined everything I had learned, everything I had known about economics, politics, social affairs. It redefined everything. And though my first job after that was in the consulting sphere, one thing I realized was to be able to provide expert feedback, one needs to be grounded in your own theories, in your own experiences. So I moved on to an implementation, a job which had implementation of projects. And it was not a very conscious decision. It also happened by fate that I got through this workplace. And we were working with migrant workers in Rajasthan. And and through the project, I realized how close that topic became to my heart. It was not only very vulnerable groups of women, children living in working as migrant workers. So that was one of the topics that I used to work with. And then I moved on to doing research on WASH, on social protection, on gender. So it continued the journey working in these rural areas, working with these communities. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Riddhi. I believe this is also very inspiring to work in the social development sector. Thank you to all our speakers for the first round and giving a brief idea about all these interesting careers, basically. Moving on to our next round, that is the second round. The topic is facing and managing unique challenges. So the first question I have for you, Pallavi, is reporting from conflict zone. It comes with immense danger, both at a physical level, emotional level, and mental level. So how do you assess and mitigate the physical risks before entering a high risk area? Also, how do you cope with the psychological toll of witnessing violence and instability?
I'm still figuring that out, but I think yes, one of the biggest things that one of the main things that we do before we are even like allowed to go into these high risk zones are something called the hostile environment training that we need to do, which basically takes us through all the things that we should do and should not do. It also kind of like ingrains in you little things that you should be doing. So for example, if I say, if I have to go somewhere and we know it's a risky road, how do you ensure that you're safe, right? So you need to be like, I mean, that's not a possibility in India because it's banned. We always carry sat phones when we are in this part of the world, but in India that's banned. So but like I feel like carrying a sat phone, carrying uh like a grab bag of sorts, like things like just with your passport, with your basic documents, and that's always on you, like basic, like one bar of, I don't know, chocolate or something, like so that you're not hungry. There have been situations where you'll be probably stopped at a checkpoint. You'll probably be, I've never had a very bad experience, but like I've heard people going through, I've also heard people being kidnapped on the ground. So I so far never had any such situations, any such really difficult situations, but also like it's always keeping our team in London aware of where exactly we are, when we are going, what are we doing at every point of the day, so that if anything happens, uh, they can like somehow get back to us. We also the physical risk is, you need to really know how to run in such situations, because there have been quite difficult wartime situations, and like essentially that's you wearing like a 20 kilo like bulletproof vest and a helmet and everything, so it's quite difficult. But essentially one of the biggest learnings that I've had is that even when you're not on the field, you need to be mentally very constantly thinking about how to mitigate these risks, and also physically how to mitigate this risk. So that might mean that you enter into a schedule of working out. You also enter into a schedule of like thinking of like making permutations and combinations in your head about what is risky even on the road. Like even on the road, if you're walking the streets of like, I don't know, Delhi, how to like, what to look for, what not to look for, like being very cautious all the time. uh the emotional risk of trauma is not just by witnessing it, it's also nowadays a lot of it is on social media. And a lot of the emotional trauma is comes from the fact that when we get a video or when we do a uh, we need to do like an analysis of what exactly happened. So that means repeatedly watching an act of crime again and again and again. And I think one of the biggest learning is to somehow to try and dissociate from that in whatever way that works for you. I know a lot of my friends who think that therapy works for them. For me personally, I think it's very stupid, but boxing works for me. But like it's very different. It's very personal, and it's very um like it's 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 a very personal experience. So you need to like mitigate it the way you feel best, is what I've understood. And also I feel like one of the biggest thing is like the moment you one of the biggest learnings that I've had is like I was going through some statistics of risk and physical risk, and I've realized that that there are more chances of you getting hit by a bus or a car on the streets of wherever than getting like attacked in some conflict zone. So I think keeping that in mind is also very useful. So yeah, that's what I do.
Thanks, Pallavi. I believe, yeah, that is very, very insightful also to know about all the practical difficulties and how to be mentally strong in the situations also is very important.
Yeah.
So, my next question is for you, Ajita. Like, extreme outdoor environments, they bring very unpredictable risks. So, how do you balance the thrill and the challenge of adventure racing along with the safety concerns? Also, it will be great if you could share with us any dangerous situation that you have encountered and how did you manage to come out of it?
Okay, thank you, Psita. So I think I just so connected with when Pallavi mentioned about her preparations, how she does everything. It is similar way as of course we don't have that the places she does the conflict area. So that's one thing apart. Then everything is how you prepare for every adventure sports. It is similar what we go through. So before going to every place, we have to do a thorough research, get to know about the ground reality, get to know about where we are getting into, because my profession leads me to unexplored places, some places where nobody has ever gone, or it is just used by villagers or just used by handful of people, right? So that is where my profession into. And for every event or every race or every expedition what we are planning, we have to train for it, we have to prepare our body, because our body is entirely different. It keeps changing every month, every year, which people don't realize. People think that we have done one expedition, we are good to go for the next and we can keep on going, but no, it's not true. We have to train our body, which evolving every time. And we coming from south, if we have to go up north or to any cold region, we have to prepare even more better, right? And then the extra luggage which you have to carry, it all comes down to the kind of activity or adventure we are going to do. We have to carry our own gears, set up our own tents, set up our own equipments, and all the setup, and cook our own food. So imagine you will end up carrying 15 to 20 kgs, and you have to train with luggage so that you're able to carry when the event is happening or when the particular situation arises. So this is the kind of preparation which is must required, and you have to know the local places where we are going, because no, we don't know what kind of people are we going to come across. That is the biggest challenge. We are, though you have permissions, though you have all these things accessible, but the world is evolving, the people are changing, we don't know who might we come across. So for us the biggest thing is the wildlife, right? So that is one of the thing, like that is more often we tend to, like, we may come across than the humans, because those are the areas where we go to explore, right? And same as with the humans, so we don't know where what we happening. So that having that understanding of the local culture, having understanding of the local background where we are heading to, and having understanding of our surroundings. So these are the things, activities which we try to do much before. We do a thorough research, make it a proper documentation, the evacuation plan if something goes wrong, that how are we going to do the evacuation, which is the best mode of evacuation, or which way the people can come, or which way the people can run. So all those things we have to know much in advance so that we can mitigate the risk. We cannot control it, we cannot 100%, nobody can control it, because our profession, our work is into outdoors, and it is so dependent on weather condition, it's so dependent on nature, it's so dependent on people on those areas on that particular day. What might happen, what has been announced, we don't know. We may be in somewhere and then we see some news, something has been announced and we are stuck there, right? So no, we can't control 100%, but realizing and having a self awareness is very important. And we ourselves try to encourage everybody to have your own skill set certification, so that you can help yourself and your team member. You don't have to wait for an ambulance to arrive on a mountain. An ambulance cannot come, paramedic will take time to hike with the equipment, and you don't know where what is happening. So you should be aware so that you can help yourself and you can help your team member, and then you can assist the organizers. So that is something we want to build, that awareness among everybody, that it is not that you have to do it, it is for your own safety. Having an extra skill, you can end up saving somebody's life, right? So that is what we do. And have saying about the situations that, yes, there's a lot of situations, a lot of experiences which we see in outdoors. So one, if I have to just highlight, it is we were stuck in one of the mountain, we were doing a hike, it's a snow hike, and we lost our way. And then it started to snow, it started to rain, and it was getting dark, and we don't know how to do the only ways. First we wanted to save ourselves, so that we should not get cold, we should not get hypothermia. So we first have to save ourselves, and then we didn't calculate the distance we gonna cover that day. We didn't had enough food, We didn't have enough water. We are on top of a ridge, and we have to just survive with just half a bottle of water and this one laddu which my mom gave me. She just secretly put it in my pocket, which I didn't know that she has put it. We were searching for food, and then we realized we have that. And then there was one wild animal which we don't know who's that wild animal at that night, and whole night we kept ourselves awake to not to be eaten, or because we don't know who's what is that wild element or that mountain, right? So, but we were prepared for it. We had our own first aid kit, not the first aid kit. We have the safety kit with us, so we were prepared for it. But you never know what might happen into outdoors. The self awareness and getting you should have a realization that you're getting into that scenario and that situation, but you have to be self aware and self prepared, because anything can happen out there. That is the profession, that is the line we have chosen, that we want to do this. So yeah, that's sort of my experience to share.
Thank you, Ajita. So, in short, basically, be prepared and do your homework well before venturing out. That's all I
Very
could.
much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Riddhi, the next question is for you. Working in rural and remote areas can bring safety concerns as well, and it can range from infrastructure gaps to social unrest also. So, what are the biggest risks that you have encountered, and how did you handle them? Riddhi, you're on mute.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah. So the risks working in rural areas are slightly different. And initially, most of my work was in Rajasthan. And since we were doing an implementation program, uh, so that also had a huge component of building awareness, reaching out to communities, who work in mines and suffer from occupational hazards, which lead to death actually. So we were interacting with these communities, and one important thing to remember, I think, would have been is they have years and years of customs and traditions that they have been living with. And one of the work that we were trying to do is ensure that workers live with dignity, and which is a concept which is such a soft indicator, and neither the workers nor the employees ever think about something like ensuring dignity to a worker, especially a migrant worker who's not part of your vote bank, not part of your community. So this is something, like I remember there was this once woman came from, like, she was from a rural background. She came with her son father-in-law, and immediately he came and he sat on the chair, and she sat on the floor. And we would try to do these little things where we would ensure that everybody has a chair to sit, so that you're coming for a service, so there should be some equality about it. But that's a tradition that you're challenging, and it's you have to be very mindful at what point you're challenging a social norm. So if you are very new and nobody knows you, when you suddenly go with your very so-called city ideas, and you say that, oh, please come sit on the sit on the table chair, they kind of look at you with mistrust, and so even in research and in implementation, I feel that you have to be part of the community. You have to work with communities or groups which work solely in that place, so that they become familiar to you, and they're more open to your ideas that you are trying to start you want them to think about a change. So that is one thing. Of course, infrastructure gaps is there, because I remember I would never, like, there were times when I was told that when you're going to the remote area, always take this public transport. Never go by a car, because you never know who comes and stops the car and robs you or kidnaps you. And they would be like, okay, you have to leave at a certain time to reach the city at a certain time. So those are some things that you need to be mindful about. And I think what worked for me was I worked very closely with NGOs also, who specialized and activist groups who specialized in working with those communities. So that kind of gave me an entry point so that I could be safe, and I could also put my points across slowly but over time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Riddhi. I also believe, like, working with the grassroots community and at a grassroots level, it really makes a difference and it's very meaningful. It's very inspiring to know that. Thank
Thank
you
you.
to all the speakers. Now we will move on to our next round, that is round number 3. And it is about legal, institutional, and policy measures for safer workplaces. So, Pallavi, the first question again is for you here. So, are there any global standards or guidelines, according to you, that should be strengthened to improve work correspondence safety?
I mean, essentially, the last 1 year of the war in Gaza kind of showed that there is no kind of nothing to help journalists who are just doing their job, including people who have been, I mean, I think under international law, when you like the press gear that you wear, which has press written on it, should give you some kind of protection. But over the last 1 year, we've seen that has really not happened. In fact, they're like the press gear has become like a target for anyone who wants to target journalists. I think, but also not just that, I think around the world, we've just seen a decline in any kind of safety or security guidelines for journalists, not just war correspondents, but anyone at all. We've seen massive rates of arrests. We've seen massive rates of torture from everywhere, from Mexico to India to Colombia to like Middle East. We've seen it happening across the world, and I think, of course, there should be a more like a better guideline for safety of journalists that unfortunately just doesn't exist. What can be done to mitigate risk in such situations is just having a community of your own self, because there is no other way or no other option really. So yeah, and like also like one of the I think anybody working in any of these hostile zones, especially for global media, I think, which is something I personally would want like local media to start embracing, is getting security personnel on board the team. So I think one of the biggest challenges that I've seen, and I've worked in local media as well, right? So is the fact that there is no understanding of risks. So just to lay it all out in the sense that we do have a team of who we call the SRS team, which is like the security risk team, and they are essentially always with us, working with us, and that is something, and that's slightly private, right? That's not like there's no like government body doing it for us. So essentially, I think and like get the experience and the expertise of the security personnel. Uh, Also, I think it's a very grim world right now. So I think anyway, anything that helps you come together and create a community and like help each other, that's the only way, because there is no way, even like international laws on press safety is not working right now. So yeah.
Thank you, Pallavi. That was insightful. And I guess a few institutional and policy level measures also should be taken for the safety. The next question is for you, Ajita. Are there any safety regulations enforced in adventure sports to reduce the risks? And also, what else can be done to improve the current condition?
Okay, so about the safety rules and regulations, if we say yes, there is, but the conversation we should start having is that how much is it impactful and how much is people aware of it? What's the extent of it? So, thing is, our industry is still very unorganized. We are still trying to build a framework where people accept it and it is working for everybody, be it any sport. We are still, if in the last few years there is a focus is coming towards adventure tourism, and when we talk about adventure tourism, we are talking about adventure sports. And this is one field where we can boost the local and rural communities, where you can empower those communities through adventure tourism. Because adventure tourism goes to places where it's not much infrastructure. So we are giving employment, we are giving livelihood, we are giving the skill, we are building the skill set for all those people who are living in remote areas. That is where adventure tourism is all about. We are not just building a zip line or a rappelling setup inside a city. That is just we are giving a thrill of the people. But how do we connect with the adventure tourism is when we involve the local communities. So that is a big undertaking which where we involve the government, we involve the private stakeholders, where we want to have a skilled people and come forward to build an ecosystem where we can have a safe practices, where right now we have rules, but how many people are following, we are not sure. There are still many people who are just doing for the sake of doing it. They have a right skill, but what is going to happen if something happens? How they should react, or how they should mitigate, or how they should save the other person, that is still a question mark, a big question mark into adventure industry. But we are moving forward, we are having conversation, we are talking, but it is a long way, because as everybody's mentioning, we have to have an ecosystem, we have to have a people who really want to build and do this, right? And then having said this, this is a whole lot of India is a terrain, in terms of terrain, in terms of culture, in terms of tradition, that we can brag about adventure tourism. We can literally brag about it, because not every country has all the seasons and all this terrain. So considering that, we have to have those frameworks where people talk about it. Even if we one of the section, if we talk about like uh, nobody knows that what do you do in adventure sports, what is the profession called as, right? To give you a quick example about to connect how we can do this as a job security. If you see a person who's doing a Mount Everest, what and he or she has done Mount Everest. So what is your perspective, that what is that person's job after they have done Mount Everest? Everybody will think it's a motivational speaker. He or she can be a best motivational speaker. Come on, they can be a very good operations manager, they can be a logistics head, they can do a training, they can do a finance controlling, because that is all thing they are doing while they're preparing for the expedition, right? But we don't see it, and people still don't know that how to take adventure profession as a full-time profession, because we don't have security. There is no PF coming up, there is no policies for this, there is no what do you call it, insurance, and there's so many aspects of it which gives you security in any other profession. To have a framework, a policies, we have to start having conversation about this profession, to give a limelight to people who are actually putting in efforts, give them more opportunities to come and talk, more opportunities to tell them how they want this profession to grow. Then automatically the safety aspect is coming into place, then people will start taking it seriously. Right now nobody want to pursue this, we don't have it in our school curriculum, we don't have it in any way, people just do it as a leisure. So that is the difference we have to make as an ecosystem. So yes, we have policies, but the impact is still less, and we are moving forward. So let's hope we will see a change into adventure sports.
Thank you, Ajita. I also believe it's people like you who, strive into this unconventional workplaces, who turn their passion into professions. That is the way, awareness also peeps into other people also.
Yes, that's one motivation. I have seen very few females in this field, and that's why let's see how far and what all can do.
Yeah. Thank you, Ajita. So, Riddhi, my next question is for you. Do you think that there are enough legal protections for people working in social development, and especially in remote areas? And what changes can be done for further improvements?
So legally, like every organization, we follow the POSH, and every organization is supposed to have the internal complaints committee, which is supposed to have women, which is supposed to have an external member. But I I want to ask this to everyone, that how, if ever anybody has raised a issue with the internal complaints committee, how often have they been told that, are you sure? Do you really want to file an official complaint? Are you sure you can't sort this out? So legally we have the provision for it. It is powerful, actually. They can file an FIR, they can take steps, they can, if they have a zero tolerance towards ensuring safety of women, then definitely they can do it. But I feel it's not even done in the best of organizations. And when you come to a rural setting, especially when I was working with informal workers, there is no such committees which are prevalent. There is not even an awareness about, especially like women who go to work in brick kilns or women who go to work as daily wage laborers. They are not privy to any such committees, or they are not even participants to any such committees. So I think that with informal sector workers, I'm sure a lot can be done. And the other thing that there is an issue is, suppose if I work for an organization, but I have a issue, or I've been harassed by somebody from the, say, the sarpanch or the pradhan or somebody from the government setup. Then officially, I can, each of them have their internal complaints committee, and through that channel, it can be raised. But the power dynamics are very strong in such cases, and would if they are from an NGO, often the women is told that, oh, just don't go to that panchayat anymore, just go to the other one. But yeah, there is a provision. It's taking, it's time consuming. The system discourages it more than encouraging it. So yeah, I think a lot can be done. First, I think at every level, especially at government level, the police level, with your frontline workers, a training can be given on what your rights are, what you can raise, and this training, I feel, should be given by an external person, because if it's an internal thing, they'll just like bypass it as a tick box item. But raise those issues, make the police very sensitive to such things. We used to do, like, I know organizations which do these trainings with the police, trying to ensure that they are sensitized. So at every level, it needs to be done, so that your women are empowered to take it up, to challenge the wrong that they have witnessed and been part of, and also at the system level, to be supportive of the victim.
Yeah. Thank you, Riddhi, for bringing out all the practical difficulties basically women face also. And it's always better, as you mentioned, it is because of the power dynamics, many people don't come up also.
Yeah.
So it's always better to practice rather than preaching also.
Yes.
Moving on to our next round, it is messages for the future trailblazer. So Pallavi, the question is for you basically. What advice would you give to young journalists who dream of becoming war correspondents?
I think it's like, be very aware of all the risks that come with it, but also like stay curious and stay truthful. That is it. Like, that's all you need to be a journalist, I think, because essentially there's a lot of notion around the world that journalists need to be neutral. But I personally believe that sometimes it doesn't show the real picture. So be truthful. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Pallavi. Ajita, the question for you is, what advice would you give to women who want to break into the extreme sports industry?
Just stop dreaming, just go for it, just start living. Because we are the sports and adventure sports especially is considered as a man's sport. Like there are so many men's out there, and we are not celebrating and talking about the female, because there are very handful of females who are ready to take that risk. because
Yeah.
every time we are being told that no, what if you get hurt, what if you get tan, what if this happens, what if that happens. But imagine if you think about that, then we don't have any female athlete who's into adventure sports.
Yeah, true.
So I would just tell to all the females, it is not about if you want to be an athlete. There's a huge potential to be in a professional level, take up a lot of other job roles into adventure sports, be it marketing, be it sales, be it operations, being so many things. But just come out. You should be like willing to do what you can do. Don't
Yeah.
let anybody else say, okay, you can't do this. And just go for it. Because there are a lot of females who are looking forward to look for some inspiration so that they can say, oh, yeah, I want to be that.
Thank you, Ajita, for the wonderful advice. Riddhi, my next question is for you again. Like, what would you say to young people who want to make an impact in the social development sector, but they are very concerned about their safety?
I think join the sector. Um, Definitely there are risks, but what job doesn't have its own risks? But be empathetic, be non-judgmental, be open to learning, because we often, when we enter the sector, we have so many biased ideas that we have been brought up with, and we go and we try to change the world with our perceptions. So be open to those learnings, be open to those point of view. And yeah, so when you work with the community, I've frankly found communities very, very, especially in Rajasthan, very loving, very, very open um, to seeing people from outside, um, embracing outsiders also. But I think that's because Rajasthan also has a lot of hospitality associated with it. But yeah, so be aware. There are several women groups, SHGs, that work on ground. So we can actually work with them, because they are from the community. They are already unionized. They believe in the idea of the collective. So the way they raise issues, social problems, it's very different, and definitely they have a say in the community, even if they may be marginalized. So I would say that associate yourself with these groups which already exist, and try to get your buy-in into the community. And I would end with one story about this group of women that I was working with, and they were SHG groups, and generally they had some. Obviously, it was an economic thing they would do. They would sell products, make products, sell products, find a market. And then there was this really bold elderly lady in very traditional attire, and she came and she said, so I said, I was just generally talking to her that, are there cases of violence here, domestic violence, and just engaging with her. And she said, yeah, but if any woman comes to me and tells me this, I gather all my women, and then we go to that man's house and we talk to them. We go, we scold them. And because she was elderly, she also had that place from which she could place the confidence with which she was talking. And she said, I do it. We all go together, and we said, this should not happen again. So you see women and you get inspired every day. So yeah.
Thank you, Riddhi. I think that was a very interesting incident that you shared also. Now, the final question to all our three speakers, and any one of you can take it up. Were there any gender bias challenges that you faced in your profession? And again, how did you address it? Anyone can take it up. Pallavi, if you want to go ahead.
I can go. I mean, gender bias in the sense, I think one of the biggest things is, even till now, like all professions, so it's not a new thing.
Yeah.
Journalism is a very male dominated area of, but also, especially when it comes to conflict and investigations kind of a space, it is extremely male dominated. Hopefully, that's going to change with the soon. But I think one of the biggest challenges is to get people to let you go on the field,
Yes.
because it is not supposed to be a very nice holiday. So
Yes.
you kind of end up convincing a lot on why you should be going. One of the biggest uh, challenges there also is the fact that if something happens, if there's a kidnapping, if there is any kind of like ambush attack or anything, along with uh, the basic tortures and harassment, you also have to think about GBV. You also have to think about not just that, uh, different kinds of like harassment targeted at women.
Yeah.
But also, even if you're not on the field, one of the biggest challenges that we face on a daily basis, given the stories that we do, is tech facilitated gender based violence.
Yeah.
So essentially, and that has like very real, very like these online experiences that we face. I think we have very real offline consequences of those. And I think one of the biggest things is that's still prevalent, and it's rising in different ways. It's rising in, I think, at this point of time, especially for journalists, technologically just trolling, harassing, death threats, rape threats, and also like lots of doxing, like a massive amount of doxing
Yeah.
is a part of the job. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Pallavi, for sharing your experience. Ajita, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so in my field, yes, definitely, I have faced this, because nobody in the position where I am right now, or what I'm working, the kind of my work, the places it takes me. So it's very difficult for somebody to believe that it's a female. The females can do this. It is always they think, okay, a male can go and give presentation. He has to go for the meeting. So even till now, like people still ask. When I travel, it's a different thing. When a guy travels, it's a different thing. So you get those kind of comparisons and those kind of challenges. And then of course it's a sport which is, there is a risk involved. You might get hurt while you're doing or testing some activity, while you're hiking, or the weather changes. Anything can happen. There are times why I have hidden all my injuries if I get hurt, so that nobody should stop me going from the next time, because this is saying, oh no, you should not, because parents are more conserve, like in terms of they want you to be safe. It is all about that. But
Yeah.
then it is again, it is you, we know it's a risky job. You
Yeah.
have to go out to get your things done. You have to go out to get your work done. And if I'm good at something, it's my job to go and get it done for our company, for what we want to do it. We cannot be dependent on, okay, only certain people can do that. So that is the kind of challenges you always face. But then how to overcome, or how to tackle that, is just that you keep going. You don't stop. You don't let any voice who say tells you cannot do it, don't give a head to that voice. Just keep going. Do what you want to do. And because at the end you are trying to create an impact, where we're walking on a path where the future generation will say, okay, this path can also be taken. The females
Yeah.
can also do certain things. This is also can be a profession which can be taken up as a full time. Okay, so right now it is still considered as a part time, or somebody is like, okay, what is the future we are talking about here? Right, so the luxury what we have while we are working in corporate or in a government job, you don't have that much luxury here. You have to stand in a sun to get tan. You have
Yeah.
to fill your own water bottle from a river which is flowing, and then drink that water, cook food on a road just with whatever you get. So this is a kind of luxury which we enjoy, but that is still not acceptable as a normal norm for the industry where we are. So yes, we just have to keep going and make an impact while we are doing our journey.
Thank you, Ajita, for sharing your experience. Uh, Riddhi, what about your any challenges, gender based challenges that you have faced, and how did you overcome it?
I think the main challenge is getting people to take you seriously, especially like when you are monitoring activities or you are doing social audits where you are looking at the government processes, or you're looking through, you're basically auditing processes where the government is involved, private parties, stakeholders, other stakeholders, everyone is involved. So I think getting people to take you seriously, because they think, oh, a woman has come, let's just give her some chai pani and and we'll have do some small talk and that's it. That's She'll just go away. They don't expect you to ask the tough questions, and when you do, uh, there are ways they try to evade it. So there are these issues, especially when you are younger. I think I did face these challenges, but over time, you learn how to deal with it. You learn how to talk to government players. You learn how to talk to these private partners. So, and like Pallavi said, you have to be truthful. So, and you want to ensure that the people you're talking to are also truthful to you. So that kind of, it's a thing you learn and you struggle and manage all your life, I think.
Thank you, Riddhi. So, as we are towards the end of the session, thank you to all the panelists also. We will now open the floor for audience questions. Audience, if you have any questions for our panelists today, please drop them in the chat box and we can take it up one by one.
While people type the questions, I just want to add, like, I was really inspired by Riddhi and Pallavi. So the profession they are into, I can so connect with that, being into outdoors, doing so many things and preparing yourself. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I really inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. The same for both.
Yeah, same here. Pallavi, I know her through life, so I keep hearing her stories. But
Yeah.
Ajita, fun
Yeah.
to hear your stories too.
Yeah, next time we should meet on some adventure. We should all go
Yeah,
on some adventure.
yeah. I'm always very fascinated by women taking lead in the mountains and the test of endurance. Oh my God.
But thank you to all the speakers today for this insightful session. And
Thank
also,
you, Ajita, for organizing
Thank
this.
you. Yeah.
thank you to the audience also for joining this is a very important discussion. I'd also like you all to know that at Lawcubator we are committed to supporting organizations in building safer and more inclusive workplaces. And if you're interested in learning more about our training, compliance, or any workplace safety solutions, please feel free to reach out to us. And please stay connected for future safe workplaces dialogue sessions also. See you next time. Thank you
See
all.
you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.